Hello. For today's Rage review, I'm going to review the Snowman, but it's not really a review. It's a public service announcement. I'm going to try and describe how bad this is and tell you why you shouldn't see it. This is the first movie I've seen in a long time that disbands all effort, all structure. It's as if the editor cut up each individual scene, put them all in a bingo ball hopper, and pieced them all back together in the order they were selected. Each scene seems like it's from a different movie. None of them connect. Michael Fassbender plays Detective Harry Hull. This is based off a Norwegian novel, takes place in Norway, so it's supposed to be pronounced Holy, but in the film's single shred of self-deprecation, the movie said, fuck it, we're calling him Harry Hull, middle name ass. We see 2 seconds of him sleeping in an alley. So we're supposed to infer that he's a drunk, but he acts more like a kid on speed trying to finish his homework. I couldn't tell you what the fuck this movie thinks it's about if you held a gun to my head. It's just random, incontinuous scenes of talking with people, and once that scene runs out the clock, cut to a snowman, and the limp dick score lets a single violin synth note out. And it's just a regular fucking snowman. Rinse, repeat. And there are a couple scenes where Michael Fassbender has a surrogate son who isn't really his son, and he teams up with another woman at some point. There's one scene where they're talking to a guy. There's another scene where she's talking to another guy. There's 2 scenes with Val Kilmer, and I'm not even sure if it's Val Kilmer because he doesn't look or talk like Val Kilmer. The words don't match his mouth, but the credits insist that Val Kilmer somehow passed through this movie like a specter through a graveyard. J.K. Simmons affects a mid-Atlantic accent. At one point he says garage when I think he meant garage. It's just a lot of off-putting details like that in this movie. Really the only thing that makes it even interesting on just a scientific, movie critic level, but it's not enjoyable in the slightest. Michael Fassbender looks like he woke up from a coma, and I felt like I wanted to go into one. I was rolling my head, stomping my feet, audibly shouting, "What is happening?" at the screen, trying to get the blood flowing, and there were only 2 other people in the theater, and they answered, "I have no fucking clue." When the killer is finally revealed, he makes the baby from Happy Death Day look like the monster from Alien. This movie is depression. Trying to describe it is like trying to describe clinical depression. You could chalk it up to bad genetics or just everything panning out miserably in your life. That's how I think that's how this movie might have been made. I mean, the director is blaming a whole bunch of things, the studio system, or he didn't get to shoot more pages of the book. But I'm not buying it at all. I mean, this movie is just broken to its core. People have names and faces, but nothing to say, nowhere to be, nothing to do. And there are scenes where Fassbender just walks into people's houses without knocking, and that's never addressed. There's a scene where a girl is just dry humping him on the floor and then walks away. Fassbender is also apparently on some pharmaceutical drug. All this movie seems concerned about in the slightest is how fucked up the detective's life is supposed to be without ever earning it or explaining why or caring at all. Most of the scenes consist of Michael Fassbender maybe having a seat in an empty office with no detail, lighting a cigarette or 2 or 3, reading a note from the retarded killer in crayon, Mr. Policeman, ... and then just a bunch of shit you can't remember, and then saying a line or 2 to the female detective that evaporates from your mind completely in the next scene. And there's nothing to suggest that he's even a cop. You just have to take the movie's word for it, just like the drunk angle. You never see a badge, you never see a precinct. There may have been a gun in one scene, but even that I'm hazy on. You got to help me with that one. I'm not too sure. And I tried to pay attention, believe me. I had no distractions. Phone was off. It doesn't even use cliches. Like the director thinks he's too good for them. I can't imagine how this movie can appeal to anyone. It's nothing. It's hollow. It's one of the emptiest movies I've ever seen. It's why even worry about a killer when you have no life that he could possibly take from you? You know, everybody's so lifeless in this movie, and just the concept alone is absurd. This killer builds snowmen out in the yards of his victims. What if somebody looks out the window and sees him and he's got to jump into the bush like, oh shit, that could have been funny. This movie could have been awful, but it's not even that. The only reason it's not a 1 is because it doesn't go through enough to fail at anything. It barely even registers as a movie, to be quite honest. So, this is a PSA. Do not see this fucking movie. It will make you wish you had dementia just so you can imagine a better story playing out. On the Rage Reader, my new barometer for scoring, this film gets a rating of kill yourself. It's a 2 out of 10. That's the translation. Only because it never made me cringe the way something like The Babysitter on Netflix did. That's a 1. But The Snowman is numb as frostbite. It might be worse than The Dark Tower. It's from that same place of dread. It's so poorly made that I can't even accept the director's excuses. The only way he can atone for the sins of this film is by apologizing profusely for wasting people's money and making a real fucking movie. You're fucking garbage. Alright, so that's my review of The Snowman. I'm telling you, if you see it, your depression may worsen and elongate, so please don't see it.